and welcome to Love Talk. My name is Gregory Morgan. Thank you for joining me. Communication between men and women. That's the area we're going to focus on today because that's where there seems to be the largest disconnection, if you will, between not only the styles of communication, but also what we mean when we say certain words. Different words and different gestures and different actions mean something, one thing to a woman and another thing to a man, perhaps. How can you improve the quality of your own relationships in your life? How can you have relationships in which you are fulfilled in your own life, but also that fulfill something greater or grander than your own personal point of view and your own personal satisfaction? Hello, this is Gregory. You're live on the air with Love Talk.
Mr. Gregory Morgan, what a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for asking. And you, sir?
I'm great, thanks.
The root to infidelity is abuse, if I'm right.
No, not necessarily, no.
One of the reasons.
It's interesting, there could be 1,000 reasons, yes. There could be that there's something not satisfying in the sexual relationship between the man and the woman. It could be that they don't communicate, so they've never really expressed their needs. It could be that they were married too soon before they even knew who they were or what they're doing, which is usually the case, particularly in Iranian communities where often arrangements are made, or people are sort of pushed to get married before they're even mature adults. In my opinion, a mature adult is somewhere around 26, 27 years old, and for men, it may be as late as 30. You actually come into sort of self-knowing in which you know what you're about and what your life is for, if you've taken the time to look into that, which most people in our culture, the modern culture, don't even do that. We're so busy looking at video games and getting an education and learning everything from the outside in that we never take the time to learn from the inside out. And all of my teaching are about from giving you access to your own inner wisdom and knowledge so that you begin to learn your life and who you are from the inside out and begin to live your life from the inside out. Now that's a little bit of background, okay? But so the reasons people have infidelity in their marriages are basically because they don't honor their word. They give their word, I will be true to you for the rest of my life. That's a sacred vow, and it's a very serious thing to say to someone. And then they don't have the honor or the integrity to fulfill on that. And they also don't have a support system around them of men and women who hold them to account for their honor and integrity. That's what a wedding is supposed to be. A wedding is where you call the people that know you and that trust you into your life, and you stand before them and you make a sacred vow to a sacred person, either a priest or a rabbi or whatever you have, right? Somebody that you consider to be connected to God. And in front of God and this person that represents that and your entire community, you make a sacred vow. And you're really doing that for the purpose of saying, hey, look, if I slip, if I fall, if I become weak in my vow and in my honor and in my integrity, I'm counting on you to hold me to account. I'm counting on you to help me out, to hold myself accountable, to keep this sacred promise to provide and protect and cherish this person. Most people, our society does not engender honor and integrity. It simply punishes you when you don't have it, which is not a very good way of, if all you ever did with your children is punish them every time they did something wrong, but never teach them the right thing, never encourage them when they've done something well, you're going to have basically a natural born outlaw. Okay, you're going to have somebody that resists the rules. And so that's kind of how it's come about in this modern day society. I don't know if this is helping you. All of this is background because I know there's a lot of people that have this question. For the most part, in more primitive cultures, people recognize that at the midpoint in our lives, which for us now is in our 40s because we live longer. Back when the phrase "till death do us part" was first invented, people lived to be about 35 or 40 years old, and they got married when they were about 16 or 18. So you're basically talking about 10 years. Till death do us part usually was for about 10 or 15 years because people didn't live that long. Now we live much longer, and till death do us part can be a very long time. It is normal and natural for people to have many phases. In fact, there's 12 phases of a lifetime. And at each phase it is appropriate to have a death and a rebirth at that phase. You see, there's the death of the infant and the birth of the child. There's the death of the child and the birth of an adolescent. There's the death of an adolescent, birth of a young adult. There's the death of a young adult and the birth of a mature adult. Do you see? So there's many deaths and births in our lifetime, and each one is to be celebrated, not mourned, but celebrated. Oh, I've reached a new stage in my life. For us, modern people who live to be 80s, 90s, in fact, people of my generation and perhaps yours may live are starting will probably live to be 100 years old or thereabouts, simply because medical and everything and the environment has improved so much that we'll be able to do that. Around 40 years old, there is what some cultures, for example, in the Korean culture, they call this the mid-birth. We call it the midlife crisis. Now, it's not a crisis for the person having it, it's a crisis for everyone around them. They call it the mid-birth. And in the mid-birth, they are actually shamanic woman. You know what a shaman is? Like a magic person, a person that, sees into the other world and understands the deeper meaning of things. And so there's these women who are shamans, and they will move into your house. If you're not gracefully, naturally leaving your first part of your life and beginning your midlife new birth, they will come and move into your house, and they will throw out all of your stuff. They'll throw away everything that has nothing to do with your future life, the life that you're supposed to be living as a mature, sage, and older person who actually brings wisdom to the culture. If you're still staying and hanging around in your youth when you're 40 some odd years old, they'll move into your house and throw all your stuff out into the street for everybody to take, and they all come and take your stuff. And then if you argue with them, they actually will beat you on the head with dead fish as a way of getting you to move on into your next stage of life. Most people, especially men, are up until that age on what I call the happy plan. When I say the happy plan, see, we figure it out about the age of 13. We go, well, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get lots of girls. I'm going to have lots of friends. I'm going to smoke some pot and not do that much. And I'm going to just skim by, and maybe I'll play football. And I'm going to have lots of friends that are going to love me all the time. And I'm always going to be happy. Then I'm going to go to a great college and make straight A's. And I'm going to be very, very happy. And I'm going to graduate, and I'm going to get rich. And I'm going to marry a trophy wife. And we're going to have lots and lots of kids. And we're going to live in a really rich neighborhood and be happy all the time. And my kids are going to love me my entire life and never argue with me or disrespect me, and they're going to be happy all the time, and I'm just going to be happy all the time. And by the age of 40, you figured out that none of that's going to happen, or most of it didn't happen, and you look forward into your life and you get very depressed about that, and you begin to wonder, will I ever be happy? I believe that a lot of men have been on the happy plan, and when the happy plan doesn't exactly work out like they planned it, then they go and start having an affair in an attempt to be happy. And I think a lot of women do that too. So I know that that's kind of a long and complex answer to your very simple question, but I want to sort of open that subject up,
One last question, Mr. Morgan, and I'm going to hang up. I'm going to listen from TV.
All right.
What's the reason for taking that?
Well, we get trained very early on in life to take abuse, okay?
And say, I'm going to...
Go ahead. You can go ahead and hang up.
I'm going to listen from the TV.
Yeah, go ahead. Thanks for your question, and thanks for watching my show. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks a million. God bless you.
Bless you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm starting to watch you on coffee. Thank you, sir.
All right, you bet. The question is, why do people take the abuse in the first place, and whether we realize it or not, and whether it's certainly not by any intention of our parents, do we begin to accept little tiny forms of abuse throughout our lifetime? And so we're trained in the beginning. Either you're trained by your parents who are awake and aware and conscious enough to teach you about boundaries. By the age of 2, you start to say, what does a 2-year-old say? They say no, right? By the age of 2, you start to say no. Now, if your no is not respected, if your no is not dealt with in a manner that honors and respects you, even though you're 2 years old, if it's always disregarded, then you begin to figure out that your no doesn't mean anything. And you begin to accept that little tiny abuse. It's a tiny abuse. Of course, not every 2-year-old's no can be accepted. Of course not. But as a 2-year-old, you begin to figure out, oh, my saying no doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work out. And you'll do various things. Either you'll insist, or either you'll submit, either you'll fight, or either you'll surrender. And we begin to accept little types of abuse. And one of the things that we begin to accept is, for example, very often, people will be given food. A child will be given food that they don't want, and they don't want to eat that, and the parents will force them to eat it. You're taught to go to a school that you don't want to go to, and your no doesn't matter, you have to go. So I'm not calling these things abuse, I'm calling it disciplining your child and raising them to work in society. However, in a natural society where there's a lot more freedom, then children find their own natural boundaries, and they begin to get a sense of self much sooner. So your self begins to be well defined. And when you know who you are and what you're about and what you stand for, and you believe that your no has some validity. Your ability to say, no, you will not cross this boundary. This is my territory. This is my body. You will not abuse my body. You'll not abuse my mind. You'll not abuse me verbally, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I won't allow it. When you get to that place in your life, then you don't accept abuse. But until then, a lot of times people have to accept abuse because they don't have a sense of self. Their center core is missing. They're hollow inside, and they are looking to others to fill them up. When you are full on the inside and you know who you are and you're solid in there and you have a sense of self that is vibrant and alive, then no one can abuse you. They may try, but nobody will be able to actually abuse you. You will always have a choice. Even if somebody put a gun to your head, you still have a choice. You always have a choice. Abuse, believe it or not, is a choice. It's a choice you make. When people accept abuse, it's a choice they make because it's the only one they've got. They don't have a sense of self that is strong enough to say, no, you won't do that. I hope that helped. I'm going to go ahead and take some more calls. Hello, thank you for waiting. This is Gregory, and you're live on the air with Love Talk.
When somebody has a problem, somebody is getting married to a foreigner wife, a foreign wife.
Okay, hold on a second. I just want to, just for your sake, and also for the sake of the people watching, let's keep it about you. So are you about to marry a foreign wife?
No, I'm married to a foreign wife. But,
you're married to a foreign wife.
I just want to know where do I stand between the love of my culture and, the country and my wife, which is a foreigner. How should I deal with it? Because that maybe is a little bit difficult for a foreigner.
What country are you from?
Are
you Iranian?
Yes, I am.
And is your wife Iranian?
No, she's not.
Where's she from?
India.
Okay, so that's a very different culture. Did she accept your Iranian traditions before she married you?
Yes.
Did you accept her Indian traditions before you married her?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the problem?
The problem is, because of this situation here in our country.
Throughout the conversation, you keep talking in vague general terms, and I keep focusing on getting more specific, and I'll keep doing that. So I'm going to need you to really be specific. Here in our country, I don't know what country you're in, you see. What country are you in?
Canada.
Okay, so you're living in Canada as an Iranian man with an Indian wife, and you said here in our country what?
They say that, because I feel a lot about the situation in my mother country, and I do believe I kind of put a little bit of pressure on my wife regarding that. And I don't know which one is more important, love to the mother country or love to your wife.
You need to divorce your country and marry your wife. Who do you sleep with?
My wife.
Who's going to have your children and raise them?
Yeah.
Who's going to carry your blood into the future? You need to marry your wife, and you need to honor her as a sacred woman. Listen, I'm from Oklahoma. How do you think it would go if I tried to treat my Iranian wife, Dr. Azita Sayan, like she was a cowgirl from Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm.
You think that'd go very well?
I see.
I don't think so, you see?
Yeah.
Now, there's a part of me that loves my tradition. My background is my grandmother was an American Indian. So I'm a quarter American Indian. And, I have a whole background in the Midwest that is very rich and very powerful. And so I haven't become Iranian.
Comes and puts some pressure on you, not directly, indirectly.
Who does?
That you have to shoulder some responsibilities of costumes that you had to deal with, when the time comes.
In the end, who's going to be sitting beside your bed when you're dying?
Yeah.
The person that's putting pressure on you to act some way so that they can feel better? Pressure is a story. It's a myth, right? There's no such thing as pressure. Ultimately, even if I put a gun to your head, you have a choice.
That's
right?
all my imagination.
Well, it is really, because if somebody says, hey, you have to do this, you need to look in your heart and see what your heart says. If your heart says, hey, buzz off, then you need to say that.
Yeah.
If your heart says, look, I've made my choice. I've chosen my path. This is my wife. I respect my tradition. I respect my country. I respect my elders. I wouldn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. However, I'm an adult. Are you a father?
No.
But you're going to be someday.
Maybe.
Well, maybe not. But I mean, even if you're not a father to your own children, you should be a father to your community. Do you know what I mean? There's a time in a man's life where he becomes an elder. He's a mature adult man, and he should begin to show some wisdom, some backbone, and some self-determination, and begin to make choices for himself. If a tradition does not fit with your own personal heart value, then you're to discard it. I would discard. In fact, I would make a practice of getting rid of, and I do personally in my own life, getting rid of everything that does not fit into or contribute to in some way what my heart virtue or my heart's desire is. I trust my heart's desire. My entire life is about honor and integrity. When I go to work in the morning, when I get dressed in the morning, when I brush my teeth, when I go to the gym, everything I'm doing is about how can I create that in the world. Now, that's just my chosen path. What is yours? But you have one like that, and I bet it's not that far from my own. Do you know what I mean? Everybody has something that they value, that they'd give their life for. In fact, every time you've ever been enraged, every time you've been upset or hurt or angry, it's because this value that you have in your heart has been violated. And every time you've had those goosebumps, you know how you get goosebumps? Yeah, or you have tears come to your eyes and you feel like an emotion? It's because your value, that heart value that you have, has been fulfilled. Whether it was a song you heard or a poem that you heard or something that someone said or something you saw and you felt that feeling inside, that's your soul saying, yes, yes, that's it, that's it. You need to listen to that.
There's a priority on the time that you're loving. Yeah, the priority between whom and how to love somebody, or how to share the love between your family and your culture, your civilization, your country, and whatsoever, which is important to you.
Yes. There are several states of evolution, and I don't know if you were watching the first part of the show, but I talked about there are 12 different cycles that human beings move through, which are sort of the life and death within a single given lifetime. And one of the states of consciousness, if you will, is called tribal, in which how we refer to what is right is because the tribal elders said so. So it is a sacrificial state because we give up our own wants, dreams, hopes, desires, and will for the sake of the tribe, because the tribal elder, who at this point in history you may not even know who that is, could be some prophet or something, says this is right. So we don't even look at what's right for ourselves anymore. We only look at what they say, the tribe says is right. Right?
This stage is an iterative or incremental
that
over
stage
time,
is,
or is
yes, it does. It does. Yes, it's a great question. That stage does change over time, and in fact, it is designed to get you to a certain place in your life. It's never designed for you to stay there for your entire life. You're supposed to move through these stages, not hang out in one all your whole life. Do you see what I'm saying? That's like you look around you, you're going to see 30, 40-year-old men that look like they're still, especially here in America and Canada, I was just up there, I just came back Saturday as well, that dress and act like they're like in their early 20s or late teens. They're 40 years old and they still haven't grown up. You're not supposed to hang out asking your mom what to do past the age of about 20, 19, 18, you should be done with that by then. You're supposed to be a man by then and actually start moving into having some boundaries and ideas of your own and seeking your own place in the world and what is your own unique gift and contribution to the world. Wondering what you should do or asking the tribal elders to tell you what's right and wrong, which there's nothing wrong with that, except I'm a tribal elder, if you will, that's urging you to move beyond those boundaries into your own self-sufficient state of mind in which you begin to become self-referential. Does that make sense to you?
It does.
In other words, where you begin to look to your own heart. What's right here? What's wrong? Because you know what's right and wrong. And sometimes, like now, it's good to go and refer to another and say, hey, what do you think's right and wrong? I'm a little confused here. I'm not sure. Okay? And because you've honored me by asking this question, I'm honoring you by saying, I know that you know what's right. And if I were you, I would marry the woman I'm married to.
Yeah.
That loves you.
So I actually did a very good decision during that time.
Yeah. Marry that woman, which means divorce.
But the problem is it makes a little bit complicated that when you choose the right and wrong, sometimes you have to choose the right, you have to sacrifice things you love, and that's the part that I'm afraid of. But
that's part of being a man.
Yeah.
That's part of being a man. That's part of being an adult, right?
Yeah.
When you choose the right thing, not everybody's going to like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah, it's not a popularity contest. Sometimes you choose the right thing. If you choose the right thing, that's in your heart, I guarantee you somebody's going to be angry about it.
I see.
Right? Somebody's going to not like it. But that's only because we have surrounded ourselves with people that are sort of codependent and who are looking outside themselves to find happiness instead of inside themselves. You know, they may be looking to you to make them happy instead of finding their own happiness, you see?
Yeah, that's
right.
Such a thing.
Now, that's not your problem.
Yes.
That's their problem, and that's a tough decision to make. That's a tough place to have to come to, but there's a time to say kindly, generously, and as helpfully as you can, hey, the fact that you're not happy with my decision is your problem.
Thank you.
Okay?
That's actually what I needed. Yeah,
All right.
actually, I would like to thank you once again.
All right.
And long live thoughts of Cyrus the Great. Bye.
Thank you very much. Hello, this is Gregory, and you're live on the air.
Oh, hi, Gregory. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you today?
Good, thank you. I just have a question. I am 40 years old, and I have a big problem that I've started like when I was very young, and I started to bite my nails.
Okay.
And whatever I did for like many, many years, probably around maybe 6 or 7 years old when I started, I remember whatever my parents did didn't work, and I was always a nail biter.
Okay, and so you still are?
Yes.
And is that a behavior that you would like to get rid of?
Yes, that's what I like. There were some times that I stopped, but I felt that whenever, like after maybe a while, it comes back. And since right now I have like a lot of nail places that I go and they fix my nail, I put the artificial set acrylic,
Do you eat those
but
too?
it's not a good, like I do it because I have to, otherwise I'm going to start biting again and again. But there is something that definitely I want to get rid of one day.
I can tell you that there's really good news. In hypnotherapy, we have something called a behavior destroyer and a behavior replacement model. I know that sounds like kind of cool names because it's a pretty cool process. It takes about an hour and a half, to tell you the truth, at the max. It destroys a behavior so that any habit, any unwanted behavior, any behavior that you do that's compulsive and you can't stop doing it, you could go back in your life and figure out what the anxiety is and all of that. That doesn't take years and years of therapy. You can do that pretty quickly. I can do that pretty quickly with you, okay?
Yes.
A qualified therapist can do that quickly, like an hour or two. While that is useful information, it doesn't stop the behavior. You see what I'm saying? It's like I smoke, I don't want to smoke, and then I go back and I figure out some traumatic event that happened in my lifetime when I was 11 years old, and now I'm smoking because I have anxiety about that. Doesn't make me stop smoking. Now I know why I smoke. So while it's interesting information, it doesn't change the behavior. The work that I do with people is I go back and I find the original incident and we learn what there was to learn, because your spirit, your soul wants to be whole and complete. And it is. There are times in our life where we have faced overwhelming circumstances. A lot of people will call it trauma, where you faced a circumstance where you weren't big enough. You weren't big enough, smart enough, strong enough. You weren't something enough, pretty enough, skinny enough, fat enough, whatever, right? To deal with this situation. And some little piece of your heart and your soul got squeezed up. It got compressed. It got hidden. It got buried away. Instead of learning the lesson. Then one day you come to a place where you go, I know something's driving me because I have this behavior that I don't want and I can't stop doing it. And so we take you back very quickly and you find that thing that was missing and you go, I can't tell you the whole process on television, but I can tell you that you recover this buried piece, and it's very, very powerful process, and it happens suddenly, very subtly, and then it's easy to destroy the behavior because the behavior is just an attempt by your nervous system to try to recover something. And something like a nail biting, I always use the idea of, you know those old phonograph records? Well, if you put the needle in at the beginning, what does it do? It plays the song, right?
That's right.
And does it ever play any other song?
No.
It always plays the same song every time.
True.
If you were to take that disc and you were to scratch it all up and scratch it and scratch it and scratch it and scratch it and scratch it, and then you put the needle in the groove, what would happen?
It's not going to start.
It can never play that song again.
True.
Ever.
Yes.
That's done. So in the behavior destroyer, a behavior is a specific sequence of neurons firing in your nervous system. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. It's neurons firing in a specific encoded and well-grooved, well-ingrained pattern, so that you get nervous, chew nails, right? It's just automatic. It's like putting the needle in the groove, get nervous, chew nails, right?
Yes.
So if I destroyed that record, you couldn't chew nails anymore. You'd get nervous, but you wouldn't know what to do. So then I replace that with something that is empowering. For example, I get nervous and I take a deep breath and I relax and I feel my heart and I take another deep breath and I ask myself, wow, what am I nervous about?
Yes.
And then I take another deep breath, and pretty soon, not only have I figured out what it is I'm nervous about, but I'm kind of relaxed and alert and aware and conscious, and maybe I've learned something in the process, and now I'm prepared to go do something about that thing that made me nervous, you see? And it doesn't even occur to me to chew my nails. It can't. Once the behavior has been destroyed and that pattern's been disrupted, you can't go back to doing it.
Yes.
Even if you started to, you go, what am I doing? You just go, what am I doing? You couldn't do it. It just wouldn't occur to you.
That's right. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Gregory.
Thanks for your call.
And sorry, before I just go, I just wanted to see, what do you think? I know that you don't know my case, but most likely, what is the reason? Because I'm the only one in my family that does this, the only person. And usually, we had a good life. My parents were so nice, and my brothers and sisters. I never had any trauma in my life. So what is the problem behind this?
It would be inappropriate for me to speculate about that.
Yes.
Anything I could say would be a guess. I don't know anything about you other than you said you were about 40 years old and you've been chewing your nails since you were 6. I can tell you this, something happened. People don't come into the world and just start chewing their nails, okay? Something happened. And it could have been as simple as you fell off your tricycle and got scared. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be some horrible thing.
Yes.
You could have gone in the kitchen and said, Mom, I want some orange juice. And she could have said, get out of here.
Yes.
Could have been any number of things. You could have had an older sibling that said, I'm going to kill you, and you believed him. It could be something simple. You'd be surprised. I know a man that's one of the greatest trainers. I'm a trainer. He's a trainer like me, and he trains thousands and thousands of people every year. He's a powerful man, and he told me a story about when he had there was a particular celebration, and he was wearing a bunny costume, okay? He was a little kid, and he had a bunny costume with ears and little feet in it, and his little feet got tangled up, and he tripped and fell down in front of everybody, and it embarrassed him, and they all laughed. And out of that experience, it was so traumatic that he became a great world leader. He spent his entire life proving people how dignified and powerful and intelligent and graceful he was. Do you see?
Okay.
So it was a traumatic event. He became a great man out of it, you see, because he tripped in a bunny costume.
Yes.
Doesn't have to be a big deal. I wouldn't worry about it. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but whatever it is, there's something to learn.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Hello, this is Gregory, and you're live on the air.
Hi, Gregory.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Excellent, thank you.
I like your style and your wife's style. You go back to the core of the problem.
Yes.
And I have a problem. I'd like you to help me out.
I'll do what I can.
My husband didn't have a relationship with his brother in another country for 20 years.
Okay.
And he was very upset. Finally, I arranged it. We can go to that country and visit them.
Okay.
The first time it went very nicely, and they invited us the second time.
Okay.
Every time we went there, we spent from penny to the $100. Every expenses, we did take care of it.
You paid all the expenses every time you went there?
Yeah, for their household.
For their entire household?
Yeah, because it took us to visit a different country because they live in Europe,
Yes.
and everywhere was closed. We were going to visit it, and we paid for everything.
Okay.
And third time I went to Iran. In Iran, they were there to visit with his wife. In front of everybody, they asked us, insist, please come over to visit us again.
Okay.
I was by myself in Iran, in front of his family. I came back and I said to my husband, your brother over there insists we should go for summer.
Okay.
Before we go, before we make a reservation, my husband called 3 times, says, are you sure you want to come? I said, yes, of course. We made a reservation and we went. I don't know why, for what reason. Over there, when we got there, he didn't treat us right.
Okay.
His wife was very upset, crying. I don't know what's wrong with my husband. Anything we were planning to do, to go to travel, to go some area, again with our expenses, he brought excuse. He said no. And it came an occasion, and my husband let them know for the nice occasion. I'm sorry it went so long. We want to talk to them because his wife called us to congratulate us. Said, do you want to talk to my husband? I said, of course I do. And when his wife went to say to her husband, come and talk to her, he said, let her go.
Okay.
And this brought kind of hard feeling for me
Yeah.
when my husband wants to call him.
Yeah.
My husband says, you have to let it go. I try to talk to him and rationalize it, what happened.
Yeah. So what's your question?
My question is, I have a hard feeling if my husband wants to call from home to his brother. I said to him, you're welcome to call from the office. You're welcome to talk anywhere else, but I don't like in front of me you call to your brother because he disrespects us.
Okay. What is the eventual outcome that you would like to see happen out of this interchange?
I tried my best.
I didn't ask you what you were trying your best. I asked you a very simple question. What are you committed to? Now, I understand that's a tough question for some people because they don't know what they're committed to. That's why I ask it, because you don't know what you're committed to.
No, I don't.
Okay, well then that's okay. That's a valid answer. I don't know. That's a good answer. That's a good place to start. I don't know is an excellent place to start. How are you going to get there? If you don't know where you're going, you're getting nowhere fast. Once you know where you're going, then you can go there. Let's look at some possible outcomes. One possible outcome is that you guys never speak to each other again, and the brothers who didn't speak for 20 years don't speak again for another 20 years. And they die and get old and they lose themselves. Another one could be that the brother apologizes and says, I'm sorry, I was in a bad mood that day and I disrespected you and, I'm sorry. Another one could be, you could say, you could have an honest conversation with the person and say, look, did I ever offend you? Have I done something to make you angry? Why did you disrespect me? That was, it hurt my feelings. You could have an honest conversation. So there's a lot of possible outcome. And you need to look at what you want to cause here, because as the woman in the relationship that was offended, and you have every right to feel offended, you also have every right to not feel offended. You have every right. What if you were the kind of person who was so clear about who they are in the world, who was so person that loved other people and wanted the best for all people concerned, that even when somebody was impolite with you, rude to you, disrespectful to you, you could still stay in your heart and keep loving and say, look, maybe the guy was having a bad day. Maybe I should go talk to him and say, hey, I tried to talk to you on the phone the other day and you said you blew me off and it hurt my feelings. What's that about? That would take a big person.
Can I say something?
Yeah, that would take a big person, wouldn't it?
I did all these things. Even when his wife called, I said, what have I done? We deserve that kind of attitude. Said, I am his wife, and still I don't know why. And I said, if I did something wrong, I apologize.
Very big of you. That's great. Bravo.
I said, if
Really?
I did something wrong, I apologize. But always you ask for help from him. He didn't step in, and I did step in and I help. But still, after all these things I did, if I did something wrong, I'm sorry. He said, no, he's crazy.
Okay, well, that sounds like a good answer.
But then, here you go, still, I need my answer from you. I get offended when I see my husband wants to call him.
Here's the thing. You are reserving the right, and like I said, you have a right to be offended, yes? You do.
Yes, I do.
You have a right to be offended. You also have a right to take that offensive gesture, write it on a piece of paper, shout it to the moon, and, burn it in the fireplace and forget about it. Do you know what I mean? You have a right to let it go, in other words, as well. You could do that.
But Gregory, you said something nice to the first person was talking about his Indian wife. You said to him, who's going to sit next to you when you're sick? Your wife.
Yeah.
That's what I said to my husband. I said, I am here taking care of you, not your brother. But please don't do something I get offended more.
Well, listen,
Because
the only conversation...
I haven't done anything wrong. Even though I asked if I did something wrong, I'm sorry.
Right.
But then still, they are trying to treat me wrongfully.
If this happened with me, and it has, okay? We went back to visit my family, and my brother was disrespectful to me and to my wife. I don't think he set out to do it. I don't think he even realized he did it. I think he's just a jerk, okay? He was just misbehaving and acting like a jerk, and it offended me, and it particularly offended my wife, who, as you know, is really somebody for herself and deserves a lot of respect, and she's used to being treated with respect, and so when somebody treats her rudely, she's like, what the heck, right? And the conversation that I had with my brother was, hey, you don't treat my wife with disrespect. You understand? If you want to stay in connection with me, if you want to be my brother and treat me respectfully and have an honorable relationship with me, you can treat me disrespectfully if you want. We'll deal with that. But you don't disrespect my wife. Not in front of me, not behind me, not anytime. You understand? And I set him straight about it.
Excuse me to interrupt you.
Yeah.
This is my expectation from my husband always, and I don't get it.
I would demand it if I were you. Look, I would demand it if I were you. You're the woman in the house.
Every
You
time
tell him,
I
listen,
say
I
it,
want
he
you to go
says,
set
"Oh,
your
you're
brother
crazy."
straight.
Every time I said, you have to say something, stand up behind me and defend me, says, what I'm going to tell, they're not going to listen to me and they're crazy. I said, if they're crazy, why are you calling them that?
Well, that's a good question, and the answer to that is probably, well, it's his family. I could say, well, my brother's crazy, and he might be, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I could just dismiss him, invalidate his life, and say he's crazy. He treated my wife disrespectfully. He doesn't know any better. He's a nut, and just dismiss my brother and not have any communication with him. But that has a cost in somebody's life. You know what I mean? In a man's life, if you can't talk to your brother, it has a cost, and there's a certain amount of loyalty. What I do personally is I don't force or push my brother if she doesn't want to be. If she doesn't feel comfortable,
in our household too, you know?
if she doesn't feel comfortable being around him, guess what? You never have to be around him ever if you don't want to. If you've seen my brother for the last time in your life and that's fine with you, it's fine with me too.
Yeah, but then, Gregory, we cannot travel in this age together because of all these things happening during our marriage. You know what I mean? And I have that deficiency in my life. Why my husband doesn't stand up and say to them, enough is enough.
I agree with you, and if I was talking to him, I would have a different conversation, and I would be encouraging him to be a man about it with his brother and defend his wife's honor and just say, hey, listen, I don't like how you talk, how you treated my wife, and I expect you to apologize to her, and if you don't, there's going to be a cost, and the cost is going to be this. We're not going to come see you anymore, you know? It's as simple as that. You know, you misbehaved, you were out of line, and I need you to apologize and clean it up with my wife because, she didn't want to see you anymore, and she's my wife, and so I'm not going to come see you if you're not going to clean it up.
Thank you very much.
And you should insist that he does that.
Yeah, but I'm trying for 41 years.
For 41 years? How long ago did this happen?
What happened 5 years ago, but then with another brother 10 years ago, with another brother 5 years ago. It's continuously happening. When you have a big family, you know.
Well, then here's the thing. You just told me a whole nother important piece, and I'm going to give you this and then let you think about it, okay? I live by a certain rule in my life. I don't believe there are any accidents or coincidences in the universe. I believe that it is I believe in the law of attraction. I believe we attract to us that which we need to learn. That if we learn the lesson, we never have to learn it again. And if we leave the lesson before it's learned, you get to learn it again and again, and it gets uglier and meaner and nastier until you learn it. That's my experience. So hold on. So maybe the brother doesn't like you because you interrupt people, and men really don't like that, okay?
Sorry, I apologize. I apologize.
I got it. I accept.
Sorry, because when
I accept your apology.
Involved,
okay, you're not going to listen. And I think that the reason you start speaking when it starts becoming about you is you don't want to hear it. It's going to put you on hold, and hopefully you'll listen and get the lesson. If something happens once in your lifetime, maybe it was just the random, capricious nature of the universe. Could be. You might ignore it. If it happens twice, you need to start looking at, why does this thing happen to me again? If it happens 3 times or more, you're doing it. You're responsible for it. You're causing it. You're attracting it, and you're making it happen. So I don't know what your reasons are, and I don't care, but you are the source of those men treating you disrespectfully, okay? Now, in the course of this conversation, I personally have felt a little bit disrespected myself because you've interrupted me a number of times while asking me a question and then refusing to listen to the answer. So I would just inquire into your life. What is it that you have in your relationship with men that have them want to treat you disrespectfully? Because I want you to know something. There are women, and you know who they are. You've met them, who men never treat with disrespect. There are women who men respect and don't treat disrespectfully. What would it take for you to be a woman like that? What's the distance between where you're at now with all these brothers treating you disrespectfully, including your husband, who won't stand up to them, and you, and becoming the kind of person that is not offended and who people don't want to offend, but who want to cherish and honor and respect and treat respectfully? So that's my question to you today, okay?
But don't forget that I'm a professional woman myself.
Okay.
I find that between my clients, those women, they are strong. In some family, they don't have a tolerance for a strong woman.
Okay. Well, my wife's a strong woman, and people don't treat her with disrespect.
You're right. But then don't forget that you stand up for her, too.
Okay. Well, I hope this helped you in some way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye. And I believe that's it. I'm going to wrap up the show. We're at the end. See you again here next week on Love Talk. Thank you.
جایگاهی امن برای جانهای خسته، سرچشمه الهام بخشی و یک پارچگی، آنگونه طراحی شده که برای شما تجربه هایی پرمعنا و رویدادهایی فراموش نشدنی به ارمغان بیاورد. ما یک جامعه جهانی از اشخاصی هستیم که شور زندگی در رگ‌هایشان جاری است، از تمام ملیت‌ها و اقوام، با هر پیشینه و باوری. به وسیله برنامه‌های قدرتمند و وسیع، شرکت کنندگان در تنازع هر روزه زندگی دست و پنجه نرم کرده، آن را مغلوب ساخته و به بهترین خود دست می‌یابند. جلسات خصوصی برای راهنمایی شما در مسیر درست مهیا شده که همراه با منابع عالی به شما راه درست زندگی را یادآوری می‌کند. برنامه‌های طراحی شده برای آقایان، پایه‌های کمال، تعهد، عزت کلام و رهبری را تدارک می‌بینند و راه را برای دستیابی به مردانگی و سازندگی هموار می‌سازند. آنچه فرای شناخت انرژی هادی مردانه است، اعمال آن در زندگی هر روزه و پرداخت آن به یک چیز استثنایی می‌باشد. آموزش‌های منحصر به فرد بانوان آنان را از طریق پذیرش خویشتن راستین رشد می‌دهد و قدرتمند می‌سازد. نقطه نظرهای فرم گرفته را تغییر داده، تعامل آنان در روابط را بازبینی می‌کند. افزودن بر درک زنانه و تبدیل شدن به آنچه تجسمی است از زنانگی، در بر گرفتن و دستیابی به ژرفای زنانگی خیش که مدت هاست خاموش و پنهان است. آنچه به نوجوانان می‌آموزیم مسئولیت، بها و ارزش کلام و اعتبار است، با خلق شور و هیجان برای موفقیتی شرافتمندانه. آینده را بر بنیادی قوی از ایدئال‌ها بنا می‌کنیم تا راهنمای آنها در زندگی باشد. نشان دادن و